Thank you so much. First of all, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಹಂಗೆ ಈ ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಚುಲಿ ಕರೆದಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. ಡೆಕ್ಕನ್ ಹೆರಾಲ್ಡ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಸಂತೋಷ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಬಟ್ ದುಃಖ ಕೂಡ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನಾಟ್ ಸಿ ಎನಿ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಸಿಪೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್ ಟೆರಿಬಲ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಇಟ್. ಸೊ ಮೈ ಅಪಾಲಜೀಸ್. ಐ ಆಮ್ ವೆರಿ ಸಾರಿ that I cannot be there in person. I hope I can meet you all some other time. But what is change? Well, everybody knows that change is the only constant in all our lives. Change keeps happening. But I guess as you get older, and I'm getting quite older, Vivek is very young, but I have learned that, and I read this somewhere, that of course change is the rule, but change need not be your ruler. So therefore, you can embrace change, but you need not get swept under by it. So last year was a perfect example, right? When humanity had to cope with so much change. And I think we did reasonably well. Anthropologists, scientists, evolutionary biologists, they all tell us that human beings can't change easily, right? But look at this, in 1 year, nearly 2 billion people, if not more, learned how to cover their faces with a mask to prevent one small virus from injuring them. And we learned that change so rapidly. So I think we are learning to deal with change as a species. And I think personally also, each one of us has had a marvelous year of learning how to deal with change. Of course, a lot of people went under. A lot of people suffered tremendously. So we mustn't forget them. But to me, yes, change represents an opportunity. And you call your people change makers. And I think the reason you say that is because when something is not right, that's when we use the opportunity to create change. And all your 21 change makers said, something is wrong and I must step in to change it. And all my philanthropy is based on the optimism that there are many, many, many people in the world like your change makers, and we can support them to create positive change. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Vivek, my question to you is, how do you look at change? Because in your fiction, at least, you're not a very great admirer of the kind of change that has swept India since the 90s. You've been critical of many things, including the economy, the way the economy has shaped up. What does change mean to you personally? And again, how do you cope with change that is beyond your control?
ಮೊದಲು ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಇರೋದು ತುಂಬ ನನಗೆ ಸಂತೋಷ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ. ಒಂದು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ನನ್ನ ಭಾಗ್ಯ ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಕೆಲಸಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿದರೆ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಅದ್ಭುತವಾದ ಕೆಲಸಗಳನ್ನು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಾದ್ಯಂತ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾವು ರಾಮ್, ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಟು ಯುವರ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್, ಲೆಟ್ ಮಿ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಲುಕ್ ಅಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ರೈಟರ್. And I'll only touch upon one aspect of it, which is language. So for me, it is always a struggle. And that's, I think, is my job to deal with this change and how a language can capture it. Because we need language. I mean, it's very basic to say this, but let me in any case say, we experience every change or anything for that matter through language. And any change in the society is reflected in its language. And as a writer, where for me language is my lifeline, that I am very conscious of this change all the time. And it is, for example, I mean, if you just take a book that is published 50 years ago, and you look at it, you will see that there are certain words which have disappeared today. Yeah, and then the new words have come in. It's not just about words. It's about every word is an experience. It evokes certain memories. It evokes certain aspects of history. So a writer is always, as a writer, I'm always sensitive to these changes. And you asked about how do I cope with this? How do I? For example, there is one of my stories which is called Huli Savari, which you translated into English, which I wrote about 30 years ago. was about a corporate experience. And at that time, India was just opening up to, uh, globalization. And the story was set in a corporate training center, and at the center of it was a game. But when I wrote that story, it was, I felt it is like some bad translation of something, because the language was not really ready to capture that experience. When I write in Kannada, I'm not talking about equivalent words. There were equivalent words, but they were not enough to capture that experience, because it's not just about having equivalent words. The words have to be used. They have to, they have to resonate something. The rest, they have to, otherwise they look very harsh. So I really struggled to make that story, somewhat readable. But if I write that story today, I don't think I will struggle that much, because so much has happened in 30 years. And that tells you how that language has, Kannada as a language has absorbed these experiences. Because if you see from 92 to till now, in almost 29, 30 years, so much has happened to Bangalore. There is so many things. And so language is, has been able to absorb it. So I would say that, that is something that I always struggle with. And it's a joy of writing as well.
Yeah. Rohini, Vivek is talking about the challenges that a language faces, as things change, and how a language adapts, copes with change. And you are a writer yourself, and you were a journalist, and you wrote for several publications in Mumbai, and then you wrote a novel, a medical thriller called Stillborn. My question to you is, do perspectives change? Do you look at the world differently as a journalist, as an author, as a writer of books, as a writer of medical fiction, and as a philanthropist? How do things change? How do perspectives change? Because what you think as a journalist might not be the same thing that you would think as a philanthropist.
Yeah, of course. All of us wear many hats, and sometimes we think we can have different perspectives when we wear different hats. But actually, I don't believe that. I think there needs to be a single sort of unifying principle through all your identities. So some core things don't change. But I'll tell you, if we don't learn how to change our minds, okay, I don't think we can make progress in this world, either personally or as societies. So I have learned very well how to change my mind, because when we are younger, we are full of hubris. Okay, I thought I knew everything. Turns out I don't know anything at all. So I had to keep on changing my mind about how I saw the world. And as I changed my mind about how I saw the world seemed to change. And I think it's very important to keep your mind open enough that you can change it in response to change, and really keep it open. So I've tried my best to do that. Of course, sometimes one is highly stubborn and refuses to change one's mind about some things. A few such luxuries are allowed to all.
Yeah, but did you have any challenges, like say when you had to switch from one role to the other?
Yes, yeah. I did. A very simple thing. We were brought up in a middle-class family, and all the stories in my life were about selfless service. My grandparents and all the examples put to us were of selfless service, of simple living and high thinking. In my childhood, that was something everyone said to children. You must have simple living and high thinking, okay? And I was a bit of a leftist, little bit activist. And when we suddenly came into a lot of wealth, Mr. Ramakrishna, as a shareholder of Infosys, and because Infosys did well, we became wealthy, which we had never in our lives expected to become so wealthy. And to deal with that change took me literally years. Because first I was on the other side thinking that all wealthy people, there's some issue there. And then I find myself becoming wealthy and say, oh my God, now what shall I do? And then I had to change and learn that wealth can be an opportunity for me to help people change the world as they see fit. And I had to change very rapidly for that, but it took me a long time, because change can be very hard, right?
Yeah. I think, you are one of those, entrepreneurs or people who see wealth as a means to an end rather than an end in itself. And you've supported so many worthy causes. My next question is about the change makers, this year's change makers, 21 in 2021. So, what are your thoughts when you look at the changes brought about by the 21 change makers in our midst? I mean, there are artists, there are scientists, there are social workers, political activists, and to us, they represent the power of good. Deccan Herald believes that they represent the power of good, and they have gone beyond the call of duty, and they've worked against impossible odds. What are your thoughts? What are your impressions when you look at the wonderful work done by all these people in our midst?
Yeah, no, I was very impressed. I read all their profiles and all 21 of them, all 21 of you, because I assume you're in the audience, though I am not. Congratulations to you, and thank you for all that you do, because this is how, see, my whole belief is that all of us together have to work to create a good samaj, a good society, and through that other things can happen. And all of them are perfect examples of that they themselves, they're not waiting for somebody else to come and do the change for them, right? They don't want to remain part of a problem, they want to be part of the solution, and they've all stepped up, whether it is of all things to find space garbage or to find the right DNA which is non-toxic, to non-toxic dye for DNA, or whether it is people working against discrimination of all kinds, or many of the other examples that you have today among your change makers. All of them have said, Nane yenu madbeku, I can't wait for somebody else. And to that I salute them, because that's exactly how you create a good society. A good society is the foundation, in my mind, for all human progress. And a good society is made of whom? It's made of you and me and all the people in the room today. So I salute them for being change makers and for taking this on. And now what they do next will depend upon their ambition, their persistence, their commitment, right? And of course, all the circumstances and opportunities that come their way. But I do hope that each one of them will continue to draw in other people to expand their work.
Right.
So that even if they and their organizations don't scale, their ideas and their mission for society keeps on scaling.
Sure. Yeah. We will come to that in a bit. Vivek, ನಿಮಗೆ ಈ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮೇಕರ್ಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಓದಿದಾಗ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೇಳಿದಾಗ ನಿಮಗೆ ಏನ್ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತು? ಮತ್ತೆ ಈಗ 3 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ನಾವು ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿರುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾರಂಭ, ಇದಕ್ಕೆ 6 ತಿಂಗಳು ಪ್ರಿಪರೇಷನ್ ನಡೆಯುತ್ತೆ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಗೋ ಔಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ವಿ ಟ್ರೈ ಅಂಡ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಒಪಿನಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಅಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್, ಫ್ರಮ್ ಅಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಟ್ಸ್. ನಿಮಗೆ ಈ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮೇಕರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಕೆಲಸದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಓದಿದಾಗ ವಾಟ್ ವರ್ ಯುವರ್ ಥಾಟ್ಸ್, ವಾಟ್ ವರ್ ಯುವರ್ ಇಂಪ್ರೆಷನ್ಸ್?
ಇಲ್ಲ, ಮೊಟ್ಟ ಮೊದಲು ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾನು ಓದಿದಾಗ ನನಗೆ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಹಂಬ್ಲಿಂಗ್. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಅದು ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ಫುಲ್ ಆದ, ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಅರ್ಥಪೂರ್ಣವಾದ ಕೆಲಸಗಳನ್ನು ಇವರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದ ವಿಷಯ ಅಂದರೆ, ಇವತ್ತು ಇನ್ ಹರ್ ಓಪನಿಂಗ್ ರಿಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ರೋಹಿಣಿ ಮೇಡ್ ಎ ಕಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದಟ್ ದೀಸ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ know that there is something wrong, but they also know what makes a difference. I think it is very important. It is, all of us see things and we know that there is something wrong, but it is also important to see what makes a difference and go after it. ಮತ್ತು ಇವರೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಅದು ಯಾವ ಒಂದು ಕ್ರಿಯೆಯಿಂದ, ಯಾವ ಒಂದು ತಮ್ಮ ಆಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸನ ಉಂಟು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಯಾವುದರಿಂದ ಈ ಬದಲಾವಣೆಯನ್ನು ತರ್ಬೋದು, ಯಾವುದರಿಂದ ತಮ್ಮ ಸುತ್ತಲಿನ ಜೀವನಕ್ಕೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಸುತ್ತಲಿನ ಜಗತ್ತಿಗೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇವರೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಒಂದು ತುಂಬ ಪ್ರಜ್ಞಾಪೂರ್ವಕವಾಗಿ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನನಗನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನೀವು ಎಲ್ಲರ ಈ ಕೆಲಸಗಳನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ತುಂಬ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇದೆ. ಸಿ, ಯು ಆರ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಎಲ್ಸ್. ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಹಂಗಿದ್ದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಿಮಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಯು ಗೆಟ್ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ from everyone and from the world around you, and I can see that these people are supported by people around them. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ವಿಷಯ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ, ನೀವು ಈಗ ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬರೆದಿರೋದಾಗ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ನೀವು ಆ ಸಿನಿಮಾಗಳನ್ನು ಮಾಡದಿರೋದಾಗಲಿ, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಟಿಪ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಐಸ್ಬರ್ಗ್. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಹಿಂದೆ ಸತತವಾದ ಪರಿಶ್ರಮ ಇದೆ. None of these people have achieved this overnight.
Yeah.
It is they have gone after it consistently for years.
Yes.
ಸೊ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಅದ್ಭುತವಾದ ಕೆಲಸ ಇದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇದೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಈ ರೀತಿಯ ಒಂದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಅವರವರ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಯಾವುದನ್ನ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರ ಹೃದಯ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಬಹಳ ಒಂದು ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಗೌರವ ಮೂಡಿಸುವಂತ ಸಂಗತಿ.
So that brings us to the next question. Iga, when you look at our change makers, Rohini, would you advise them to scale up, or expand, to use term from pre-management era? Would you like our change makers to scale up, or do you believe small is beautiful and it's good to be doing good work within a small community, within a small group?
Well, it really depends on the people, right? If they have the ambition and the desire to create very large impact, and if they are able to collect the resources for it, certainly they should scale. Because inaction is not good. You have to keep acting and trying. And why do we need scale? We don't need scale for scale's sake. I would very strongly say scale not just mindlessly for scale's sake. But if you have a passion in your heart, if you have a fire burning in you, that's something that is wrong, that you have managed little bit to fix in your communities, then there may be many other people everywhere who need that same change to happen. Then how will you connect with other people? How will you connect with other change makers so that that change can widen its impact, right? Yes. So I wouldn't chase scale for its own sake. I would urge all of you to say, even if my organization doesn't scale, even if my effort alone doesn't scale by myself, how can I keep connecting more and more dots so that my ambition will scale, my mission for society will scale?
Yeah.
And that's how we look at scale. And we have something called societal platform thinking that our teams have come up with a process for. You can all look it up on societalplatform.org. And there we say, one of the big ways to get impact at scale is to distribute the ability to solve. So just like you took one problem, all of you, and try to make a difference, if we can tell others, if you carry your story also, maybe somebody else can do what you are doing, and that's how scale can happen. So there are many pathways to scale. It should not stress us out that our organizations alone need to scale. But we must aim for more impact through more action. That's what I believe.
Yeah. So you're saying there is no problem in ideas, spreading ideas, whereas have you? Yeah. Yes. Do you see any problem when something grows very big? I mean, your initiatives have impacted the lives of millions of people. In rural sanitation, water and education. You have an initiative called Ek Step. Then Arghyam and Pratham books, which takes literature to little children. Now, these have you seen, in projects that you've taken up, and maybe in projects that your friends have taken up, that scale actually dilutes the cost? Does it ever happen that scale may actually make it difficult for you to go where you were planning to go?
No, it's an important question to answer, because as I said, if you do mindless scale, it can become very brittle, okay? But if you think, why are you trying to scale? And with whom are you trying to scale? And are you keeping your core values when you're trying to scale? Then it becomes a very different ball game. Of course, you will have problems. Even when a small child becomes big, how many problems parents have? So anything that becomes big suddenly, you will have to face problems. But you have to face them. You will fail sometimes you will succeed. But you will just have to face them But you should know with scale what should change and what should not change.
Right.
What should not change are your core values by which you drive that scale. That should not change. So even the next member and the next member and the next member who comes into your team when you want to scale should share those very clearly articulated values and shared goals. That reduces the risk of sudden scale, I think. And of course, there are many other ways, but I don't think we have time for that.
Yeah.
So yes, throughout my working life of 30 years in this philanthropy space, I've had to deal with scale, and I've tried to abstract the lessons by which you can do scale in the proper way.
Yeah.
Happy to have another opportunity to talk about that. But don't be afraid of scale, but don't do scale mindlessly. That's all I would say.
Yeah, no scaling for scaling's sake. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Vivek, a quick response from you before we go on to the question and answer session. I know that you're a believer in small is beautiful. You're inspired by the thoughts of KV Subarna of Ninasam, who has this, who founded this theater institute. And then you also believe in Dr. U.R. Anantmurthy's idea of the critical insider, where you have to be within a culture, and then you have to be critical of it. How do you look at this idea of scale? I mean, does big look attractive at all?
No, I must say that what Rohini has said, largely I agree with, because I think she has captured it very well. But there are two aspects. One is the scaling when you purely look at numbers. And if you look at some of the initiatives that these change makers have taken up, for example, non-toxic dye, it works only when you scale it up. The impact is seen when you scale it up.
Right.
For example, the Udupi sarees, the impact comes in when you scale it up, because then it's available to so many, etc., etc.
More weavers benefit from
but
it.
other stories, whether you're helping nomads, or you're helping you're cleaning up a city, or transgender work, and many of these things,
Right.
the impact, what really needs to be scaled up is as Rohini said, you spread that value. You communicate, and most importantly, you share that experience, because it's important to share that experience with a larger
True.
number of people, and then it's more effective. I think let me stop here.
Yeah. Thank you. So we'll now throw the house open for questions. We'll have the first question. If you have a question, please raise your hands, and our team will collect the question from you, and then you can come over to the laptop here and ask your question. Are we ready with the questions?
In the meantime, Ramakrishna, you should ask Vivek how he changed.
Yes,
should ask
sir.
Vivek how he changed from being in the corporate world to becoming such a successcul writer, and what he went through while making that change.
Yes. I think you should share this story with us, because
I'm a journalist at heart, so I had to usurp Mr. Ramakrishna's
Please.
position.
Yes. That was a question that we had lined up for him. Thank you for asking. Yeah. Vivek has lived a double life, as a writer and then as a corporate honcho. So he says he did it by getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30. That's more or less the time we go to bed as journalists. So, how did you pull this off, Vivek?
See, I was always interested in literature, and that is, I started. My first story was published when I was 16, and all that. But when I took up work, it was very difficult for me to find time, because the corporate life was very hectic. But one thing which I learned from another senior writer, Yashwant Chittal, who also worked in corporate life, is that more busy you are, more time you find. Yeah. That's what he used to say. And I got up when I was working every day at 4:30 in the morning and worked till 7:30 on literature. When I say worked, whether it was reading, whether it was writing, whether something to do with literature. And if you work for 3 hours every day, it's a lot of time. And plus your weekends so I think it depends on what takes the first place in your heart. ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೆ ಮೊದಲನೇ ಸ್ಥಾನ ಅನ್ನೋದು is very important.
And that is literature.
Of course,
we know the
is.
answer to
Of
that
course.
one. Yeah. So we have the first question ready. Please go ahead, sir. Please tell us your name and then go ahead, sir. Yeah. Thank you.
Since 23 years I'm doing this, only service in hospitals that Dubai, Liman, Somalia, and Baptist hospitals. At this point, I just want to say that I owe my gratitude to Dr. Ali Khaja, who has initiated this metro where I think compared to other metros, they are not got. Every day we go there and help from Monday to Saturday. And help that at least service. And also I do counseling. My question now is, we know that lot of postcards of the presents that are given from the Rajamattadalagli, Rashtramatadalagli, in the national level or in the state level, we have heard lot of trophies and the presentations given like Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, Padma Shri, and all these things have been given at the national level, which is very good. They identify everything. Similarly, the Rajasava Awards from India state level, all this has been wonderful things. We are very happy. But my very much doubt and my question is, what made Deccan Herald, a wonderful newspaper which I have been reading for the past 60 years, to think of presenting this type of trophy presentations to people? I do not know. It is really, I am very much highly impressed with the initiative taken, but a journal or a newspaper taking, I don't know whether there is any other newspaper or anything in India doing this. You know, only in the government level, but I really want to know what made the initiative to do this and identify these people,
Yeah.
to call it as unsung heroes or whatever it is. I am
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
though we are not expecting anything, but you have selected
Yeah.
such people only.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Please answer.
Thank you for your very kind words about Deccan Herald, sir. And perhaps our editor or our associate editor, Arun, will answer this question. One is, of course, Deccan Herald. When we went out and asked people what they associate Deccan Herald with, the answer we got was the power of good. You know, Deccan Herald is a good newspaper. It doesn't really go after the darker aspects, and generally the feeling most readers saw us as a force for good. And that is when our editor Shankar and the editorial team sat down and then came up with this idea of recognizing people doing good work across the state. There's so much good work being done, and then optimism is something that's very precious today. Politicians make it very difficult for us to be optimistic. But there are so many people out here who are doing wonderful work, and we thought it was our duty to recognize and honor them, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, sir. First, let me thank Dr. for recognizing all the people. My question is, because let me introduce that I am Dr. Suresh Anagavadi. I am born with hemophilia, and that made me to look around and see there was pathetic situation of hemophilia in this state and country. That's why I determined to become a doctor, and I am working now as a professor of pathology in JJ Medical College, Davangere. At the same time, my inherent commitment was to bring change in the lives of my blood brothers. That's why Karnataka Hemophilia Society, since 30 years, we have been struggling. My question is, over the last 3 decades of approaching various resources, maybe donors, philanthropists, and even corporates, but I found, especially the NGOs who are in the North Karnataka, they get lost in the world of corporate because we are not much recognized.
Okay.
And our services are not recognized.
Right.
And we are not getting real support.
Right.
So that time we feel that it is not just the hemophilia, the volume, because hemophilia is rare. That's why I understand.
Right.
That's why we are creating awareness about hemophilia and trying to bring change over the government
right,
and
yes.
the society.
Yes.
And here I would like to uh, uh, remember a great legend, Dr. S.P. Balasubramaniam.
Right.
He stood with us for 21 years till his last breath. He helped us by giving free concerts to raise funds.
Right,
That's
right.
how we have established a care center for all blood disorders
Yeah,
under
yeah.
one roof in Davangere.
Yeah.
I think Madam and even Sir also should see, is there any, we need change in the
Yeah.
lookout.
Yeah,
for,
yeah. Thank you,
this
sir. I
kind
think, yeah,
of
I mean, a
rare
wonderful
disorders.
work. We've read about your work.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, madam.
thank you for coming here. I think the question he's asking is, how do you find support for a cause like this? How do you go about it? What is it that organizations like doctors, the one that's working for hemophilia patients, how can they find support? What do they do? Do you have a word of advice?
Yeah, I have just two things to say. I'm so sorry if funding has not been available. I think one answer to that is because in India, so many basic health problems themselves are not covered. That very specific diseases like hemophilia and so many others that we come across, unfortunately, don't get enough funding because the base itself is so weak of healthcare in this country, unfortunately. However, I think there are many retail fundraising platforms that are coming up, and I would encourage people with these sort of causes that are not mainstream to go and create good stories of your work and post them on these retail fundraising websites. There are at least 5 or 6 such organizations such as Keto, and they're not immediately coming to mind, but there's something called Dana Mojo and a few others.
Right.
And they will help you to raise funds, small funds from lots of people. I believe that instead of a few rich philanthropists like myself, real change will come when lots of people are able to give a little, as much as they can, and that actually is much bigger than anything that philanthropists like myself can do. So please find these platforms, but before that, please find a way to tell your story better. You have already found a pathway through Deccan Herald. Find other spaces to tell your story. And this is true for all of you 21 change makers. Find ways to tell your story very well and find all the new streams like the retail fundraising sites, like YouTube, etc. And hopefully people will come and support you.
Thank
I
you.
wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you. I hope that answers doctor's question. Yeah, we have the next question.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಶಾರದಾ ಮಾಳ್ಗೆ ಅಂತ, ಬೀದರಿಂದ. ನಾನು ಸುಮಾರು 9 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಅಲೆಮಾರಿ, ಅರೆ ಅಲೆಮಾರಿ ಮತ್ತು ಅತಿ ಸೂಕ್ಷ್ಮ ಅಲೆಮಾರಿ ಸಮುದಾಯಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಅವರು ತುಂಬ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಅಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಾಜ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ತುಂಬ ಅತ್ಯಂತ ಹಿಂದುಳಿದ ಜನಾಂಗದವ್ರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇನ್ನೂವರೆಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಆಧಾರ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಕೂಡ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದವರು ಭಾರತದವರು ಅಂತೇಳಿ. ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಜೋಪಡಿ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ಸೀಮಿತ ಜನರು ಬದುಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅವರನ್ನು ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ರೀತಿಯ ಸೌಲಭ್ಯಗಳನ್ನು ಕೊಡಿಸೋಂಥ ನನ್ನಿಂದ ಮತ್ತು ಸರ್ಕಾರದಿಂದ ಏನೇನು ಬೇಕೋ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸೌಲಭ್ಯಗಳನ್ನು ಕೊಡಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಕಂಡಂಥ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ಅವರನ್ನು ಎಜುಕೇಷನಿಂದ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಶಿಸ್ತು, ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಅವರನ್ನು ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಒಂದು ಭಿಕ್ಷಾಟನೆಯಿಂದ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಮತ್ತು ಅವರ ವೃತ್ತಿಯಿಂದ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅಂದರೆ ಮೊದಲು ಅವ್ರ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣದಿಂದ ಕೊಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತೇಳಿ ನನ್ನ ಮೂಲಭೂತವಾದ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟು. ಆದರೆ ಈಗ ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಇಯರ್ 35 ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾನು ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಅಡ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದ್ದೆ. ಈ ಸಲ 200 ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನು ಅಡ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಏನು ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಯಾವುದೇ ವಿಶ್ವಾಸ ಇರಲ್ಲ, ಕೇಳಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರ ಮಾತು. ಬಟ್ ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ಬೆರೆತು ಈಗ 200 ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನು ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಅಡ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಅಡ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕಂತಂದರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಲ್ಲಿ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಏನಂತಂದರೆ, ಅದೇ ವರ್ಗದ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನು ಮಾತ್ರ ಅವ್ರು ಬೆರೀತಾರೆ, ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾದ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಅವ್ರು ಬೆರೀತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ನಂದು ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ನಾವೇ ಸ್ವತಃ ಆಗಿ ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾರ ಹತ್ರದೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸಹಾಯಧನ ಕೇಳಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಒಂದು ಶಾಲೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿರುತ್ತಾ ಅಂತ ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಜೊತೆ ಅವ್ರು ಬೆರೀತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಈ ಮಕ್ಳಿಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಶಿಸ್ತು ಆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಶಿಸ್ತು ಇಲ್ಲ, ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಸ್ನಾನ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಶಿಸ್ತಾಗಿ ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ, ಬೇರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಅವರನ್ನ ಸೇರ್ಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರು ಕೂಡ ಒಂದೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ಪಾರ್ಶಿಲಿಟಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಮುಗ್ಧವಾಗಿ ನೋಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಅದರಿಂದ ನನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಆಸೆ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅವು ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೋಸ್ಕರ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಬೀದರಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮಾರು 2,000 3,000 ಮಕ್ಕಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಯಾರು ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಿಗೂ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೂ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೂ ಅವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಆಧಾರ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್, ರೇಷನ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್, ವೋಟರ್ ID, ಜಾತಿ ಪ್ರಮಾಣ ಪತ್ರ ಕೂಡ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇವಾಗ 2,000 ಸುಮಾರು ಒಂದು 7,000 ಜನರಿಗೂ ನಾನು ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೇನೆ.
ಈಗ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಸೇರಿ ಓದ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಆಸೆ?
ಎಸ್, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ್ದು ಮಗು ಕಲಿತಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರು ಮನಸ್ಸು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಕಲಿಲಿಕ್ಕೆ.
ಅಲೆಮಾರಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಬೇರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಸೇರಿ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಕಲಿಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಒತ್ತಾಸೆ?
ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅವರು ಬೇರೆ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಈಗ ಅಲೆಮಾರಿಗಳನ್ನ ಪ್ರತ್ಯೇಕವಾಗಿ ಅವರಿಗೊಂದು ಶಾಲೆ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗತ್ತಾ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಹೌದು ಸರ್, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಸೇರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅರ್ಧಕ್ಕೆ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳು.
ಸೊ ಪ್ರತ್ಯೇಕ ಶಾಲೆ ಮಾಡೋದು ಒಳ್ಳೇದಾ ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಅದು ಇಂಟಿಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಒಳ್ಳೇದಾ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಏನು?
ಇಲ್ಲ, ನನಗನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಪ್ರತ್ಯೇಕವಾದ ಶಾಲೆ ಒಳ್ಳೇದಲ್ವಾ? ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅವರಿಗೂ ಒಳ್ಳೇದಲ್ಲ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಬೇರೆಯವರಿಗೂ ಒಳ್ಳೇದಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ತುಂಬಾ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಊರಿನಿಂದ ಬೆಳೆದು ಬಂದವನು. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ದಿನಕರ ದೇಸಾಯಿ ಉತ್ತರ ಕನ್ನಡ ಒಂದು ತುಂಬಾ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸಮಾಜ ಸೇವಕರು. ಅವ್ರು ಈಗ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿದಂಥ ಕೆಲಸನೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. 60ನೇ ಇಸ್ವಿಯಲ್ಲಿ 29 ಶಾಲೆಗಳನ್ನು ತೆಗೆದು, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೂಲೆ ಮೂಲೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ರಸ್ತೆನೂ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ನಾನು ಅವರ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಓದಿ ಬೆಳೆದವನು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಹೈಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ನಾನು ಮೊದಲೆಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ಕಾರಿ ಶಾಲೆಯಲ್ಲೇ ಓದಿದ್ದು. ಆದ್ರೆ ನನಗೇನ್ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಈಗ ನಾನು ಸ್ಕೂಲಲ್ಲಿ ಓದ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರಿ ಶಾಲೆ ಅದರಿಂದ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಜಾತಿಯ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ವರ್ಗದ ಜನ ಇದ್ರು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿಯ ಅದೊಂದು ಆ ಭೇದ ಭಾವ ಇರ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅವಾಗ. ನನಗಂತೂ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅದರಿಂದ ನನಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ನಂಗೆ ಜಗತ್ತು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿದೆ ನಾನು ಆ ಶಾಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಜನ ಬೇರೆ 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 ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ರು, ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಜಾತಿಯವರು ಇದ್ರು, ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ವರ್ಗದವರು ಇದ್ರು. ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ತಪ್ಪಿಸಿ ಒಂದೇ ತರದ ಜನರನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು ತುಂಬಾ ಅದೇನು ಒಳ್ಳೇದಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ನನಗೆ. ಅನಂತಮೂರ್ತಿ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಮಾತು ನೆನಪಾಕತ್ತವ್ರು. ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಒಂದು ಕಾಮನ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅದು ಕಾಮನ್ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಇದ್ದದ್ರಿಂದಲೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಮತ್ತೆ ಕುಚೇಲ ಕಥೆ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ. ಇಲ್ಲಿದ್ರೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಕುಚೇಲರ ಕಥೆನೇ ಇರ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ರಿಯಲಿ ನಂಗೆ ಅದು ಬಹಳ ಬಹಳ ಒಂದು ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದ ಮಾತಾಡಿದೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರು ಎಲ್ಲಾ ರೀತಿಯ ಜನ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅದ್ರ ಆ ಬದುಕಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ತೆರ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಓದ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನನ್ಗೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳಿದಾವೆ, ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು ಸರಿಯಾದ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು RTEನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಶುರು ಆದಾಗ ಅನೇಕ ಶಾಲೆಗಳು ಆ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳನ್ನು ಎತ್ತಿಸಿದ್ರು. ಬಟ್ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಮನಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಅದು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಬಗೆಹರಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕೆ ಹೊರತು ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಪ್ರತ್ಯೇಕವಾಗಿ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಒಳ್ಳೇದಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ನನ್ಗೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ನನ್ನ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಖಂಡಿತ ಇದೆ.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು. ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಫಾರ್ ಒನ್ ಮೋರ್ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್.
ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಸರ್. ನನ್ನ ಪರಿಚಯ, ನಾನು ಆಸಿಫ್ ಆಪತ್ ಬಾಂಧವ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಮಂಗಳೂರು ಮುಲ್ಕಿಯಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಪರಿಚಯ ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ತಿಳಿಸುವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ದೇ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಕರೆದಿದ್ದೀರಿ. ನಾವು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಮೊಂದಿಗೆ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಖಂಡಿತ, ಯಾಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಒಳ್ಳೇದುಂಟು. ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮೇಕರ್ಸ್ 2020-21 ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮೇಕರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಆಯ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಅದು ಈ ಉದ್ದೇಶ, ಅದರ ಹಿಂದಿನ ರಹಸ್ಯವನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಮುಂದೆ ಅದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು.
ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮೇಕರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಈ ಪದದ ಅರ್ಥ ಏನು ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಸಂದರ್ಭ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಧೈರ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಎದುರಿಸಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನು ಅಡ್ಡ ಬರುತ್ತೋ ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ದಾಟಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದವ್ರನ್ನ ನಾವು ರೆಕಗ್ನೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಉದ್ದೇಶದಿಂದ ಈಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕೆಲಸನೇ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಬೇರೆ ಯಾರು ಮಾಡದೇ ಇರುವಂತ ಕೆಲಸ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಪೇಪರ್, ಒಂದು ಪತ್ರಿಕಾ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯಾಗಿ ಗುರುತಿಸೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಉದ್ದೇಶ.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದೇ. ನಾನು ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗಿ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮೇಕರ್ಸ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಲವಾರು ಬದಲಾವಣೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕಂಡೆ. 19 ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಮದುವೆ ಆದೆ. 1 ವರ್ಷದ ಮಗು ಇರುವಾಗ ನನ್ನ ಜೀವನದ ಆ ಒಂದು ಈ ದೋಣಿಯನ್ನಿಂತು ಅದು ಉಲ್ಟಾ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ತಲಾಕ್ ಎಂಬ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂಥದ್ದ ಒಂದು ಬಂದು ಏನಿಲ್ಲ, ಝೀರೋದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಇವನು ಬದಲಾಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತೇಳಿ. ಇಲ್ಲ, ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಅವನವನ ದೇಹದಲ್ಲಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ದೇವನಿಚ್ಛೆ. ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟರ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಬೆಳೆದಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗಿಯೂ ನನ್ನ ಊರಿನಲ್ಲೇ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಬಹಿಷ್ಕರಿಸಿದಂತ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ, ಅಂತ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಇದು ಅದೇ ಊರಿನ ಒಂದು ನನ್ನ ಸಮುದಾಯದ ಮಸೀದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷನಾದೆ, ಒಂದು ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಆದೆ. ಈಗ ಮೈಮುನಾ ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್ ಅಂತ ತಾಯಿ ಹೆಸರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗ 47 ಮಂದಿ ನಿರಾಶ್ರಿತರು, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ನೋಡಿ. ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಹೇಗಿದೆ, ನಿರ್ಗತಿಕರು, ಈ ಮಾನಸಿಕ ಅಸ್ವಸ್ಥರು ಸಮಾಜಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ ದೂರದಲ್ಲಿದ್ದವರು ಚೇಂಜ್ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಇದು ಒಂದು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ, ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮೇಕರ್ಸ್. ಇದೀಗ ನಾನು ಮೇಡಮ್ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗೆ ಕಿಟ್ಟೋ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಅಂತೇನೆ, ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಇತ್ತು, 3.5 ಲಕ್ಷ ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಬಿಲ್ ಕಟ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ, ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುದು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಮತ್ತೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಟ್ರೆಸರರ್ ಆಲೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಯಾರ ಹತ್ರ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದಾ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಾಗ ಫೇಸ್ಬುಕ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ನಾವು ಹೋದ್ವಿ. 2 ದಿವಸದಲ್ಲಿ ಜನರು ಸ್ಪಂದನೆಯನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು, 3.5 ಲಕ್ಷ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಬಂತು. ಮುಂದೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಅವರ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ಗೆ ಹಾಕಿದ್ವಿ. ನಂತರ ಒಂದು ಮೇಡಮ್ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಅರ್ಜೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ನನಗೆ 50,000 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲದಿದ್ರೆ ನನ್ನ ಗಂಡನನ್ನ ಬದುಕಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತೇಳಿ. ರಾತ್ರಿ ಹೋಗಿ ನಾವು ಅವರ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಪಡೆದು ನಾನು ಇದೇ ರೀತಿ ಅವರನ್ನ ಮುಂದೆ ಇಟ್ಟು ಕೇಳಿದೆ. ರಾತ್ರಿ 11 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ ಅಪ್ಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಮಾರನೇ ದಿನ ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ 2 ಗಂಟೆ ಹೊತ್ತಿಗೆ ಆ ಹೆಂಗಸಿನ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ಗೆ 14 ಲಕ್ಷ ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಬಂತು. ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಆಗೋ 18. ಇದು ಬದಲಾವಣೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮಿಂದ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಕೂದಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ, ಚೇಂಜ್ ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಮುಂದೆ ನಾವು ಈಗ 2.5 ಕೋಟಿ ರೂಪಾಯಿ ತನಕ ಈ ಒಂದು ಕ್ರೌಡ್ ಫಂಡ್ ಮೂಲಕ ಜನರಿಗೆ ಅವರವರ ಅಕೌಂಟಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ವಿ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಇದನ್ನೇ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಹೇಳೋದು, ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮೇಕರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವತ್ತು ನಾವು ಬೇಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ನಮಗೆ ಕೊಡಿ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬರಿಗೆ ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದ. ಎಲ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಆಪತ್ ಬಾಂಧವ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸಾಹುಕಾರ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ, ಖಂಡಿತ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಮಗೆ ಹೃದಯ ಮಾತ್ರ ವೈಶಲ್ಯತೆ ಇದೆ. ಎಲ್ಲೋದ್ರು ನಾನು ಆಂಬುಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಟು ಫ್ರೀ ಇಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾರಣ, ನನ್ನ ತಾಯಿಗೆ ಮರಣ ಹೊಂದಿದಾಗ ಮೈಸೂರಿನಿಂದ ನನ್ನ ಊರಿಗೆ ತರಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹಣ ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇರದೆ ಟಾಟಾ ಸುಮದಲ್ಲಿ ತಂದಿದ್ರು. ಆ ಒಂದು ಬದಲಾವಣೆ. ನಾನು ಇವತ್ತು ಅದೆಷ್ಟೋ ಮಂದಿಗೆ 3,500 ಅನಾಥ ಶವಗಳನ್ನ ನಾನು ರಿಕವರಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಕೊರೋನಾ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ತೀರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಹೋಗುವಂತ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರವರ ಧರ್ಮಕ್ಕೆ ಅನುಗುಣವಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಶವ ಸಂಸ್ಕರಣ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಕೊರೋನಾ ಅಂತ ನೋಡ್ಲೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಾಜ್ಯ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ, 1 ನಿಮಿಷ ಸರ್, ಇದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳುದಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ಬೇಕು, ಒಂದು ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಯಾವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಮನಸ್ಸು ಗಟ್ಟಿಯಾಗಿದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ. ನಾನೊಂದು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ತಹಸೀಲ್ದಾರ್ ಇದ್ರು, ಕಾರ್ಕಳದ ತಹಸೀಲ್ದಾರ್, ಪುರಂದರ್ ಕರೀತಾರೆ, ಎಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀರಿ? ನಾನು ಮಂಗಳೂರಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಒಬ್ಬ ಕೊರೋನಾ ಸೋಂಕಿತ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ನೀರಿಗೆ ಬಿದ್ದಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವರನ್ನು ಎತ್ತಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾರಿಲ್ಲ, ನೀವೆಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀರಿ? ನಾನು ತಕ್ಷಣ ಬರ್ತೇನೆ ಸರ್, 1 ಗಂಟೆ ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ನಾನು ಹೋಗಿ ನೋಡುವಾಗ 400 ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇಡೀ ಸರ್ಕಾರನೇ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಫೈರ್ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಯಾರು ಬಾವಿಗಿಲ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ರೆಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರ ಪ್ರಾಣಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಅವನಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ನನಗೆ ಕಿಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ತಂದು ಕೊಟ್ರು. ನಾನು ಕಿಟ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ಬಾವಿಗಿಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ವೇಷದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಕ್ಕರ್ ಮತ್ತು ಬನಿಯನಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾವಿಗಿಳಿದು ಆ ಶವವನ್ನು ಎತ್ತಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನನಗೆ ಏನೂ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಒಂದು ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಮಾತ್ರ ಇತ್ತು, ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಭಗವಂತ ಒಂದು ವೇಳೆ ಕೊರೋನಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಯಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ರೆ ನಾ ಪಾತಾಳದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು ನನ್ನನ್ನ ಬದುಕಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಈ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಹಲವಾರು ಜನರಿಗೆ ಮಾದರಿ ಆದೆ. ಅದು ಬದಲಾವಣೆ. ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮೇಕರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಆಯ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಡೆಕ್ಕನ್ ಹೆರಾಲ್ಡ್ಗೆ ನಾನು ತಲೆಬಾಗಿ ವಂದಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. ನಮಸ್ತೆ.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್. ನೀವು ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋ ತುಂಬಾ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಕೆಲಸದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಪುಟ್ಟ ಚಿತ್ರ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ ಈಗ. So that brings us to the end of this panel discussion. So thank you, Rohini, for your wonderful insights, rich experiences that you shared with us. Yeah.
Ramkrishna, can I say one sentence?
Please.
I just want to tell our change makers, one is, of course, we are very proud of them, but I want to remind them to also look after themselves and their own emotional
that's very
well-being.
important. Yes.
Sometimes we forget, just like they say, put on your own seat belt before putting on, or put on your own oxygen mask before putting on others. Sometimes people like these people who are so committed and so passionate, they forget to look after themselves. So today, at the beginning of this new year, I would request all of you to make time for yourselves and your own well-being also, so that you can continue to do the great work that you do. Namaskara.
Right. ಆಪತ್ ಬಾಂಧವ ಅವರೇ, ನಿಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಕಿವಿ ಮಾತು ರೋಹಿಣಿ ಅವರ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ. Thank you, Rohini, for your very rich sharing your experiences and your generosity, and thank you for being a part of this panel. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. We have a small memento that we will ship to you, a caricature that our cartoonist Sajid Kumar has made of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, Vivek. Bye.